We did our project on Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. A quick summary of the letter is that it's to Ta-Nehisi Coates' 15-year-old son, Samari. He weaves his personal, historical, and intellectual development into his ruminations on how to live in a black body in America. For our claim, we stated to understand Coates' reasoning for utilizing the letter medium to write to his son, one must first begin to understand the history behind the systematic oppression against African Americans that has taken place for generations.
To the book Between the World and Me that emphasizes the perpetuated injustice against African Americans during the 1800s. Like Coates, Truth uses powerful rhetoric to move her audience. Her active voice showers the reader with emotions which evokes a sense of kinship. While Truth and Coates' perspectives differ through time and place, they both share the commonality of systematic oppression. For Coates, the era in which Truth lived in is a history that must be retold. Evidence of this can be seen when he states, "The enslaved were not bricks in your road, and their lives were not chapters in your redemptive history. They are people turned to fuel the American machine." Although it is not written here, another source was consulted titled Liberating Voices, written by a woman named Gail Jones. In her work, she suggests that African American oral heritage, both in its verbal and musical renderings, stays vital in observation, experience, and imagination. Essentially, oral heritage is a crucial component to writings of African American authors and are to be expected. Knowing this aspect of writing is crucial to understanding Coates' choice in medium.
My sister, Miss Angela Davis, that has a substantial impact on the reader by emphasizing the gravity of the situation. In the last sentence of this excerpt, the body is mentioned, which is a constant motif throughout Between the World and Me. This section from the letter is highlighting the fact that African Americans are a part of a perpetual cycle that feeds both violence towards minorities and systematic racism. This quote is very similar to the quote from Between the World and Me. Both authors understand and want to convey the message that the oppression and violence that African Americans are victim to lead to the loss of control of the body.
The Signifying Monkey is an African American work of literary criticism. This source touches on how African American literature has a tradition of being double-voiced and a sort of talking book that utilizes rhetorical strategies. Coates' use of a letter stems from this tradition, as a letter is its own sort of talking book, meant to be read as if being listened to. This letter has a voice that reaches both his son and his audience as we connect personally to the black vernacular used in the letter. Coates' letter uses rhetorical strategies such as ethos in the way he uses his own personal experiences and logos in the way he references historical events of the past. Everything he does is meant to make his message to his son, for us as an audience, easier to see, which is that he has to protect his body as a young black man.
In summary, Coates writes his book as a letter to his son. The letter aspect follows the African American vernacular tradition, using rhetorical strategies that relate back to the 18th century notion that a letter is meant to be an individual's voice. Coates uses emotional appeals by using a powerful letter to his son to convey his message, and logical argumentation in the form of his own and historical aspects and incidents of racism.
In writing to his son, he realizes that he's speaking to a much wider audience. Clearly, Coates knows that other people are reading his words. Coates explains how and why African Americans should protect their bodies in a time where society does not believe that racism exists. Being in the body that he's in, his son will face many obstacles that other people will not have to face. Understanding the history of systematic oppression will help his son understand the importance of protecting his body.